Fortnite World Cup happened over 4 years ago, and a lot has changed since then, with some of the best players at the time quitting and new ones who didn't even play back then dominating nowadays. Today we'll be looking at the careers of World Cup players who are still playing the game and see where they're at today. Side note, I will only be going over players from the solo World Cup, and for them to count as active they have had to play the most recent FNCS. Getting right into it, our first player to start off the list has to be the one and only World Cup winner Bugha. This player needs no introduction. People literally use his name to describe someone who's good at the game. After destroying everyone and winning the World Cup, he would place top 5 in multiple FNCSs, but wasn't able to quite get that win. Until over 2 years later, he would finally get his first FNCS win in Chapter 2 Season 8 of Trios. And in that same season, he would go on to win the Grand Royale, which had the biggest prize pool we've seen since the World Cup. And once again, going into Chapter 3 Season 1, he would win again, making him a back-to-back-to-back 3x FNCS champ. And since then, he's had even more top 5s in FNCS. And before the switch to NA Central, he was the most earned player in NA East online with over 500 grand earned. Next is another player I'm sure you're all familiar with, and that would be Epic Whale. After coming third in the World Cup and winning $1.2 million, he would go on to have an incredibly successful career. He ended up dominating the NA West region, winning 6 FNCSs, which makes him the player with the most FNCS wins out of any region. And he's also qualified for every single Grands. On top of all of that, he also created his own very successful mousepad company with his brother. And that's not it, he went on to win the first LAN after COVID, which would be the Gamers 8 tournament with Bucke, earning $250,000. And nowadays he has 350k earned online and is playing in this recent FNCS with Clix. For all the Brazil fans out there, next up we have King. Impressing everybody with his fighting skills, he finished 5th, earning 900 grand. And he didn't stop there, he is still considered one of the best players in Brazil, winning 3 different FNCS titles, in solos, trios, and duos. He has over 220k earned online over the years, and I'm sure he'll continue to increase that. Next is the 10th place finisher, earning 225 grand, and it's the Canadian GOAT Fatch. Many of you probably recognize his name if you follow comp, but you might be surprised to hear that he's a super OG. Fatch has continued to consistently prove he is a top competitor, making a bunch of grand finals, but his best placement would be a 3rd, not quite getting that win. Yet he's been able to earn over 100k online, and now him and his duo Pamstu, who have been playing together since Chapter 2 Season 6, are considered one of the best teams in NA. So it wouldn't surprise me if they pulled off a win in the future. I mentioned Clix before, and obviously he is on this list. After qualifying 5 times for the World Cup, he ended up in a respectable 18th place, getting $112,500. Throughout the 4 years since, Clix has become the face of competitive Fortnite, pulling tens of thousands of live viewers on stream, having over 6 million followers on Twitch and over 2 million on YouTube. Unfortunately, his competitive career hasn't really seen as much success as his content career. Obviously, he's seen some success and he's one of the best fighters on NA, but he lacks the placements to prove that he is the best, with his best FNCS placement being a 4th, but he would still earn over 200k online. And just like Fatch, it would not surprise me to see Clix win an FNCS in the future. Next up, we got Endretta, who placed 24th. Endretta has had a very interesting career after having many ups and downs. In the Season X FNCS right after the World Cup, he would place 2nd, but he wouldn't have another super good placement again until Chapter 2 Season 6 FNCS, where he played with MrSavage and Refsguard, and he would again get another 2nd place. But after that, the inconsistency would continue, and since then, he hasn't really had any other good crazy placements. But he's managed to earn himself over 250k online, so I'm sure he's doing just fine. And speaking of Savage, we have him up next, placing 29th. And much like Clix, he is one of the biggest faces of competitive Fortnite, and has grown a following of over 3 million on Twitch and 2 million on YouTube. And with FNCS, his best placement would be that 2nd with Endretta. And apart from that, he hasn't actually had any other crazy FNCS performances. However, he has still earned over 150 grand online, and nowadays, playing with Vidil, he is looking better than ever. Another player I'm sure you've all heard about would be Letshe, getting 32nd. Now, like some of the other players I mentioned, Letshe has found more success in content than anything else. His best placements in an FNCS would be the solo invitationals in Chapter 2 Season 2, where he would place 8th. But he's managed to gain over 1 million followers on Twitch, which is very impressive. And he's continued to play up until this day, but hasn't made a grand final since Chapter 3 Season 1. But with his streaming career and earning over 125k online, he's doing very good in life. After an iconic qual video for the World Cup, next we have Clarity G, who placed 56th. Like everyone else I've mentioned, he continued to play FNCS, but his best placement would be a 7th in Grand Royale. and even after playing since the World Cup, he hasn't had any top 5s in Grands. However, with over 100k earned online, he is still a very good player and qualifying for every finals. And next up, another player very similar to Clarity G is Ceice, placing 60th. Over his competitive career, he's racked up over 125 grand online. And in the Duo World Cup, he ended up placing 3rd, winning 900 grand, spending most of that on DoorDash. But other than that, he hasn't had many other super good placements in Grands. But notably, back in Grand Royale, he placed 5th place, picking up 2 very underrated players for that time, which would be Cold and Elite. But since then, he hasn't really found much more success. For our 11th player of this video, we have another person I'm sure you all know of, and that would be Bucke with another iconic World Cup qual video. Over the years, he's gone on and off again while streaming, but recently he's been streaming a lot, pulling thousands of viewers. And for FNCSs, his best placement would be a 3rd in Chapter 2 Season 5, and he's managed to earn over 200k online. Plus, this FNCS, he is looking better than ever, dominating every single event, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see a top 3 finish. Next, our first player on the list that you've probably never heard of, and that would be Lasers from Brazil. He placed 71st in the finals and actually won Squad's FNCS. His last time making a Grands though would actually be in Chapter 2 Season 4, and since then he hasn't placed too well. And because of that, he actually quit the game for a little, playing here and there. But he has returned to playing tourneys again, and with over 50k earned online and being an FNCS winner, I guess we'll just have to see how he keeps doing. Another player that you may not have heard of placing 81st would be Blastar, or Blaster, I don't know. Throughout his years, he managed to pull in over 45k earned online and hasn't seen too much success in FNCS, with his best placement being an 18th in Chapter 2 Season 4 Trios. And with his last Grands appearance being in Season 6, things aren't looking too good. But this season he started grinding again and actually ended up only being 3 places away from making the Grand Finals. So things are looking good for him again. Placing 86th in the World Cup, we have Babs. And much like the last player, he hasn't really seen any crazy placements in FNCS, with his best one being a 6th in the first Trios. And his last Grands was in Season 4 of Chapter 2, but he's still been playing since. Next up, we have the #1 French player in the game right now, placing 88th, and that would be Snayzy. With his best FNCS placing 4th in Chapter 2 Season 5, he's gone on to rack up almost 200 grand earned online, and nowadays is consistently qualifying for every Grand Finals. Now we got the 2x FNCS winner on NA who plays 90th in the World Cup, and that would be Reverse 2K. And like I said, throughout his career he has had many good placements in FNCS, but most notably with Miro and Day. And he's racked up almost 150k earned online. Now Reverse technically kind of quit the game, not taking it too seriously, mainly just playing for fun, and he actually hasn't placed since Chapter 2 Season 8 Grand Finals, but he's played the most recent 2 FNCSs, so technically he counts for this list. Coming up towards the end here, we have our first player from the Asia region placing 91st, which would be Maufin. He's had a very successful career so far, winning the first Trio FNCS, winning again during Trios in Season 4, coming 2nd in Squads, 2nd in Chapter 3 Season 1, and 3rd in Season 6. With all these placements, he's earned over 110 grand earned online and is the 2nd highest earner in Asia. Now let's bring it back with a player you all know but might not know, placed 94th in solos. And that would be the Duo World Cup winner Aqua. He would go on to win 2 FNCSs throughout his career in Trios and Duos, earning over 600 grand online. But he's had some major setbacks despite his success. Most of his career, Aqua has suffered from hand problems, which means that he's not able to play the game as much as he wants, which causes him to take breaks sometimes, not even playing for an entire season. And that's actually what happened right after he won Duos with Vino. But even with this, he has still gone on to be one of the most earned Fortnite players in the world. Once again, another name I know you all have heard of before, placing 96 would be the X2 twins, specifically Jordan. And he would go on to win Squad FNCS and the Solo Invitationals. Now I don't need to say much more about them except for the fact that they pretty much quit playing competitive Fortnite, but now they are focused on content, gaining over 6 million subscribers on YouTube and over 3 million on Twitch. And even though they don't really compete, they still frequently stream and upload on YouTube. Our very last player of this list will be Clipnode from Brazil, who plays 98th. His best placement would be an 8th in Squads FNCS, and he actually stopped playing the game for a while during Chapter 3, but recently came back and played in the most recent FNCS. And he's earned almost 50 grand online. If you guys enjoyed this video and want to see a part 2 on the players from the Duo World Cup, let me know below, leave a like, subscribe, and I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your days. Peace out.